Welcome to Mysterium, where we taste the wonder and mystery of all of this. What is this? In this video, we'll be exploring what appears to be a meta-principle, or an organizing principle of our universe. It's called the process of complexification, and I learned about it from Brett Andersen. This is my understanding of it. It's the process of increasing simultaneous differentiation and integration of parts as greater functional wholes. Both the distinction of parts and their synthesis together create a greater functional whole. Note, wholes are usually nested. For example, an individual who's within a culture, that's within a nation, that's within Earth. And so, depending on the frame we use, something can either be a part or a whole. Goethe, a polymath from the 1700s, points to the same process. Quote, "The operation of nature consists of splitting the united or uniting the divided. This is the eternal movement of systole and diastole of the heartbeat, the inhalation and exhalation of the world in which we live, act, and exist." End quote. To get a feel for this process, let's have a look at a frog embryo developing. The embryo begins with differentiating its whole into more and more cells, becoming a hollow sphere of cells. Those cells then integrate and migrate inwards to form the distinct internal organs that work together to form the different systems such as the digestive, circulatory, skeletal, and nervous systems. Here, the cells integrate to form a tube that becomes a spinal cord and brain. As the cells continue to simultaneously differentiate and integrate, the frog as a whole and its parts become increasingly distinct. Not only is it becoming more functionally complex as it develops its ability to hear, see, touch, taste, smell, move, eat, and reproduce, it's also becoming more morphologically complex as it develops different colors, textures, and angular and curved features. The frog transformed from an undifferentiated blob into an integrated whole with many differentiated parts. This is a dynamic process that occurs at the edge of criticality, the boundary between order and chaos, where wholes are most sensitive to change and transformation, and are able to increase in complexity through a new form of integration. Too orderly, change can't occur. Too chaotic, structures can't form. An increase in entropy and a tilt towards chaos, in other words, a loosening of order or structure and a vulnerability to more possibilities, are necessary ingredients for greater complexity. A person who is convinced that the world works a certain way won't be able to change their mind until they face an anomaly that their worldview can't account for, or they open their mind to new possibilities. Encountering an anomaly or opening oneself to new ways of thinking can feel uncomfortable or destabilizing. That's the increase in psychological entropy that's priming you to transform your mind and yourself. Wholes can spontaneously organize into a state of criticality through competing interactions, referred to as self-organized criticality, SOC. SOC has been applied to explain phenomena across all scales. Two examples of competing interactions from the paper are short-range versus long-range molecular forces within proteins, and interests of individuals versus interests of groups within populations. Other examples that seem to fit are the modes of attention of left versus right hemisphere within cognition, such as focused attention versus broad attention, freedom versus constraints within creativity, and expansion by nuclear fusion versus contraction by gravity within stars. My takeaway is that it's the dynamic tension that creates the, quote, optimal conditions for the emergence of complexity, end quote. Like the tension of a string being pulled in opposite directions, which allows a bow to propel an arrow forward or a harp to create beautiful melodies. I believe this also reflects the insight of yin and yang, which takes it a bit further, and that is, reality emerges from the dynamic interplay of opposing yet complementary phenomena. Now, tension doesn't guarantee complexification, as a whole can break apart from too much tension, but it is necessary for complexification. Additionally, complexification is unpredictable and does not occur at a steady rate. It's non-linear. A pair of complementary phenomena that appears to be present at all scales is of differentiation and integration, dividing and uniting. What I'm about to say might be stating the obvious, but it truly does appear that this process of seemingly distinct entities coming together to form greater functional wholes can be observed from the quantum to the cosmos. Let's explore this pattern across the different scales. Remember how the embryo began as an undifferentiated blob? Let's watch it again. Keep in mind the image of the embryo developing distinct parts, combining parts, and simultaneously becoming more differentiated and integrated as a whole. Now, let's zoom all the way out. Just like the embryo, the universe began in an undifferentiated state, but as energy rather than cells. As it cooled down, the energy formed atoms. This reminds me of the cells dividing and increasing in number. Which then became gas that collapsed into itself and formed stars. These stars fuse their atoms within into heavier elements, typically from hydrogen to iron, and then exploded and scattered the substrate for the formation of planets, comets, and asteroids. Collectively, the stars formed galaxies, galactic clusters, and the cosmic web. Zooming in closer to home, this pattern unfolded in the creation of the moon and its integration with Earth. Without the moon, there'd be a 6-hour day, no nightlight, no seasons, and tides would be a third of their current size. Let's watch a simulation of the moon's formation. Prior to life coming onto the scene, Earth's landscapes consisted mainly of rocks, volcanoes, water, and ice. The arrival of life imbued the landscapes with vibrancy, complementing the blue with the color of life, and life further differentiated and integrated Earth's features into various kinds of ecosystems. Moving into the realm of the squishy, that is, biology, this pattern manifests as cooperation between increasingly complex forms of life. Take the mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells. Billions of years ago, they were independent organisms that somehow learned to cooperate and became an integral part of a larger organism. Our bodies have 60 trillion cells. Within our gut, we contain bacteria that support our digestion, immune system, and brain function. Stepping outside of the organism, we see different species cooperate with each other, such as bees receiving nectar and transferring pollen for plants, eels keeping their mouths open for small shrimp and fishes to clean their teeth, and warthogs laying down for mongoose to pick off ticks and parasites. For humans, it's a work in progress, and we do have our bad days, or rather, tragic days, since egos are involved. But we are slowly realizing our interconnectedness to each other and the planet as a whole. This pattern can even be found in your therapist's office. You may have heard of a psychotherapy that's been gaining popularity in the past 5 years called internal family systems, which was developed in the 1980s. This therapy mirrors the process of complexification. In essence, it involves differentiating one's undifferentiated sense of self into distinct psychological parts. For example, the inner critic, the explosive part, and the traumatized part, and integrating them through feeling, dialogue, and understanding, forming a greater functional self. What if it's effective precisely because it mirrors this fundamental pattern? I hope I did a decent job in elucidating the process of increasing simultaneous differentiation and integration of parts as greater functional wholes. Can you see how this process is reflected in music, language, ideas, and technology? If this organizing process is unfolding across all scales, from the quantum to the cosmos, and everything in between, that would mean we are a reflection and manifestation of the process of complexification, or the process of creation itself. Intriguingly, our brain hemispheres reflect just that. In broad terms, the left hemisphere's focused attention attends to parts and differentiates, and the right hemisphere's broad attention attends to wholes and integrates. Perhaps our creativity and kind of consciousness suggests that we are the closest manifestation of this process that we know of. Could this be why we have such an immense capability for creation? Creation is the unique integration of differentiated parts. Whether for good or ill, look at all that we've created. Humanity is like a young adult, but we already have great ability to conceptually and physically divide and unite the world. And as our understanding grows, so too does our ability to destroy and create. Let us make it to our wiser years. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope I have conveyed a taste of the mystery, that felt sense in your body as excitement, unease, curiosity, or intrigue. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you see how this process is reflected in music, language, ideas, and technology? I hope to see you at the next video. Take care.